So let's go ahead and set up Firebase to our project. So first thing, we're going to go to firebase.google.com, and this is what you should see. Now, this assumes obviously that you have an account, a Google account, and that is what you should have for this to work. That's why you can see now it went ahead and logged me in. Okay. Or here, what you need to do, you say go to console, because we need to create an actual Firebase app, if you will. All the dependencies and everything we need to do. So as you can see, if this is your first time, you won't see any of these other apps. As you can see, I have many different apps there that have created projects, that is. So we're going to start afresh. We're going to start a new one, say add project. And then we're going to name our project. It doesn't matter really what you name, but it's important to always give names that make sense. In this case, I'm going to call this book tracker app, like this. Okay, I'm going to say continue. So this now is creating a Firebase project. It's saying that the project is ready. Say continue. You can see now that our book tracker was created. This is our application, and there's different apps we can include in this project, right? So we can do iOS, Android, and web. And of course, we have Unity as well. So different platforms, we can create different apps that will consume the same Firebase project. Pretty neat. All right, so what we're going to focus on right now is going to be web. So I'm going to click on web like that. And the moment that happens, you notice it's going to ask us to register this app. So the first thing I'm going to say, just give a nickname for this app. I'm going to call this book tracker app again. Okay, I'm going to say register. All right, there it is. So once we've registered, this is what you'll see. Now we have to take all of this and put in our project, right? So what I'm going to do, let me copy all of this. Also, you could have just clicked here. Just go ahead and copy all of this code. Let's go back to our project. So we need to add all of the JavaScript tags inside of a very special file, which is the index.html. If we go and open our project structure, you will see that we have at the bottom here, let me close all this down. We have this web folder. If you click there, you see we have this index.html. So this is the entry point per se to any or every web app. Okay, so if you click, try it again. So if you double click, index is going to open, and this is the file. Okay, so this is what it's called to run our web app. So what I'm going to do is make sure you click right below this service worker script there, hit enter, and I'm going to go ahead and paste that code that we just got. Now this is going to be different than yours, obviously. So this config object here is going to be different than yours, but this is for me. Okay, so you have to do exactly what I'm doing here. And there's this initialize Firebase, which calls the Firebase.initialize app and pass in the Firebase configuration, all of this. So what this will do is we'll make it so that this project, the moment it runs, all the dependencies are in place. It will go ahead and connect directly to our Firebase project that we created in the backend here. Okay. Also pay attention that this was also added there, which is the Firebase app.js. So this is exactly all that we copied from here. Okay, this is very important. Remember again, just copy it all and put right below or above this main.dart.js. Okay, and mind the script tags as well. Okay, save that, and let's go back and see what else can we do. Looks like that's all we have to do, and I'm going to continue, say continue to the console. And the moment you go back here, you notice that a few things change. It says there's one app that was added. If you click, it's going to be that book tracker web app. All right. Now, the other thing we need to do is to go to our YAML. So Command P, say YAML like this. So that's going to be pub spec YAML. We need to add a few dependencies. The first one we are going to add is going to be the Firebase core dependency. All we have to do is say Command Shift P or Command Control P. Or I should say Control Shift P for Windows, not Command Shift P. All right. And in this case here, I'm going to go ahead and say pub spec to get there. And I'm going to say Firebase core, hit enter. And I'm going to pick that first one there. So hit enter, and that should be added. Okay. Pub spec is updated, and we should see here we have Firebase core. Okay. It's taking its time to run the pub get. All right, once done, we're going to do the same thing. And again, go open that. We're going to go to the pub spec assist. This time, I'm also going to add the Firebase auth for the authentication and authorization that we talked about. So I'm going to say Firebase auth like this, hit enter. And I'm going to get the first one as well, hit enter. It was added. Just give a second so that pub get is run. Okay, very good. One next one. The next one I'm going to add is going to be, if you look to the left, going back to our project, our Firebase project, you look to the left, we have a few tabs here. So we have authentication, we're going to come back to that, and we have the Firestore database. So we want to create a Firestore database, but before we create a Firestore database, this is where all of the books, everything that we have in our app, this is where everything is going to be stored, okay? So we need to also add that dependency as well. So might as well do all of that at once. And in this case is going to be, say, Firestore, hit enter. We want Cloud Firestore. So there's different versions there. We want Cloud Firestore, hit enter, wait for a second. You can see it was added, Cloud Firestore. Second here for it to run pub-get. Okay, so there we go. So we have all those dependencies that we need. The next thing we need to do is go back to our index and also include other SDKs, because right now we only have the Firebase app, which is the one we added. We need to include 2 more to get the complete picture. Now, because setting up Firebase and Firestore, especially on web, and this is new, the web part of Flutter is still evolving, even though it's ready. There's a few things to keep in mind. You see here we have these different versions, right? So this Firebase JS 8.4.3. Now this could be different by the time you watch this, okay? So keep that in mind always. The versions of the software, they always change. But what is important to know is that sometimes we have to change, or we have to keep the same version because that is the version that was found to work at that moment, especially when we're talking about evolving SDKs or evolving frameworks such as Flutter Web. What I mean by that is, let's go to this other tab here that I have it opened. So this is called Flutter Fire. So this essentially is where all the documentation related to Flutter and Firebase or Firestore lives. So this is where you should come to get the actual truth, if you will. Okay, so if you come to this website, if you just type Flutter Fire, all right, you should get here. But you can also type firebase.flutter.dev and go to docs, and here we are, overview, right? You notice here something interesting. It says here in the installation process, Flutter Fire overview, welcome. Flutter Fire is a set of Flutter plugins which connect your Flutter app to Firebase, okay? It says here that before any Firebase service can be used, you must first install Firebase Core, which we did, the plugin, right, in the pubspec.yaml. And you see here, they give an example that you can copy and add, but we've done that. But what's important, you can see the version here is 1.1.0. That is the current version, again, that we have right now. If we go back to our project and go to our pub spec, you will see we have Firebase Core 1.1.0, which is essentially the same as this. So this is actually updated as the plugin is updated as well. So by the time you watch this, maybe 1.3 or 1.1.2, doesn't matter. So always come here to make sure that things are the same, okay? And then they say Flutter pub get, we've done that already. Okay, everything is good so far. And we'll come back to initialization. I'll show you how to do that. All right, now we want to look at authentication. So FirebaseAuth. So let's click there. And there's a video, you can always watch that. And it says here, ensure you are using the Flutter stable channel for this to work. That's one thing to keep in mind. So let's go back to our Flutter project here. And I'm going to go ahead and open the terminal. It's a new terminal. It's going to open at the bottom there. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to say Flutter channel, so I can see exactly what channel am I running on. Right. Very great. So we're running on the stable. Now, in your case here, it may be that you're running on the master. So in most cases here, you probably also are running on the stable, which is good. So we're good, right? You know that it's stable because we have this asterisk there. That's good. So we're in good place. Stable channel, very good. And the second thing I want to look at here is the dependency that we need to add. So the FirebaseAuth dependency to the pub spec. This is where things get a little bit interesting, because now it says here the Firebase Core we've talked about is already added, and the FirebaseAuth is 1.1.3. Let's see if that's the same what we have. Great, FirebaseAuth 1.1.3. So that's good. We ran pub-get and life is good. And then for web only, because that's what we are interested, that's what we're doing here, it says to add the SDK. If using Flutter Fire on the web, add the FirebaseAuth JavaScript SDK to your index.html, which is exactly what we need to do. So here is where things get a little bit dicey. If you look at the Firebase.js Firebase app, which we already added, earlier, I should say. Let's go to index again. It says here of 8.4.3, and here it says 8.4.1. Right? So which one is true? I would always go with this here because it's proven that this is supposed to work with the web as of when you watch this video. Now, if we were to leave as it is 8.4.3 instead of 8.4.1, as they recommend here, I believe, things could work fine. But I like to follow exactly what they say here in Fire because let's face it, they're smarter than most of us, and they actually are the ones who created this plugin, so they know how things are supposed to work. Okay, so what I'm going to do actually, I'm going to copy both of these because now I'm going to include the FirebaseAuth, which we need. I'm going to copy them and come down here and get all of that and just paste like this. So now I have the Firebase.js, which is updated to 8.4.1, as well as the Firebase.auth 8.4.1. Okay, all right, very good. Okay, let's continue here. While we're here, let's go ahead and set up also the Firestore because we're going to be use that at a later time, right? So let's set everything up in one place so that way we don't have to come back and redo things. Okay, so back, I'm going to close down the authentication. Let's go to Cloud Firestore. So click here, you can click on Overview, go ahead and read and watch the video about all of that stuff. So it said here Cloud Firestore is needed and Cloud Firestore is 2.0.0. Is that true? We've added that. Let's go back to our pub spec. That is indeed what we have there. Good. So we're good there. Okay. Okay. Now here it is for web only to add this SDK. Look at this. We already have the Firebase.app, right? So I'm going to just copy the bottom one here, which is the Firestore. I'm going to copy that back to our project. Go to index. I'm going to put that there at the bottom as well, okay? And save everything, and there you go. And they say to rebuild your app. So once complete, rebuild your Flutter application. Let's do that because it's easy to forget. So we can do that in our command here. I'm going to say Flutter run like this. So it's going to go stop this instance that's running right now, and it's going to rebuild everything. So in this case here, because I have a few things that may be open, it will ask me if I want to run on Mac OS or Chrome. So in this case, obviously we want Chrome, so I'm going to say 2. So it's just going to go and relaunch everything on Chrome. And by the way, we could have done the same thing here. We could have just stopped that instance there, right? And we'll run again. Same thing, but this way, I just want to show you a different way of doing things. Looks now, it should be running. Okay, everything still works fine. We can get here and everything is good. Okay, so looks like everything is set up. Of course, we haven't used any of the services yet, but at least we should be good in terms of the setting things up and making sure that everything is good. Okay, now again, this is very important. Whenever in doubt, you must come to Flutter Fire because this is where you will find the most recent information that actually works. Okay, again, Flutter Fire or firebase.flutter.dev. This is your guide. Okay, so now that we have everything set up, in the next videos, we are going to start instantiating FirebaseAuth and eventually the Firebase, or in this case, Cloud Firestore. So we can start seeing how to save things and authenticating our users. All right, I'll see you next.